In the third year of marriage, Alan was exposed to have kept a canary in the entertainment industry. She was his ex-girlfriend who had endured hardships with him. In the dim and cramped room, he learned to arrange flowers in a bottle to make her happy. Netizens went crazy, flooding his Twitter with comments. But no one knew how I had accompanied him through those tearful nights. After I asked for a divorce, Alan walked 30 kilometers on foot to find me. Upon hearing this, I just smiled faintly. Quite a walker, suitable for running a marathon. A friend sent me a screenshot with a message. Gloria's team is riding on this heat, why isn't Alan addressing it? I clicked on the screenshot, and the top trending search term was, loving a person is like nurturing a flower, Gloria. Gloria, who had been lukewarm for years, recently skyrocketed to fame with her role as a beautiful and wicked female star. As she became popular, netizens dug into her background. Since her debut, she had been leveraging resources and playing roles that top actresses couldn't get. Despite fierce competition, she remained unfazed. As eager netizens delved deeper, they didn't uncover any scandals about being kept, but they dug out a heart-wrenching love story. Gloria sailed smoothly, all thanks to Alan. Alan, heir to Booth's group, was my childhood sweetheart and husband. On my phone screen, a video played on loop. A younger Gloria leaned in close to the camera, her eyes and eyebrows relaxed, a slightly shy smile on her lips, like a budding plum. She was dressed plainly, but her beauty couldn't be concealed. Alan slightly lowered his head and placed a kiss on her lips. Her eyes formed crescents as she smiled, innocent and beautiful. Even without filters, one could tell that this video had some years on it. This was the small account dug up by netizens. 7 years ago today, he posted this video. 7 years ago, Alan wasn't by my side. He had been mistreated by his stepmother and the illegitimate child in his family, forced to leave his hometown and go abroad. 4 years ago, Alan returned to the country, and that account hadn't been updated since. Then he returned to my side, declaring his love for me. I begged my brother to help him seize power. The period he never mentioned wasn't due to pain, but regret. I spent the whole afternoon going through that account. Like the plot of all cheesy novels, the low point in Alan's life coincided with finding his true love, willing to endure poverty with Gloria by his side. They spent a beautiful time together, but for some unknown reason, they broke up, and Alan returned to the country. Netizens romanticized their story even further. In their version, Alan wasn't forced to escape to another country but went out of his own choice, fueled by youthful passion, to pursue true love. The two supported each other, facing life together. But ultimately, Alan didn't win. He was pressured by his family to return and marry me. Gloria swore to stand at the pinnacle of the world, so Alan could see her, which led her to enter the entertainment industry. Thus, her past arrogance and willfulness also became endearing. Who made her just a naive girl head over heels in love? And me? I was the unforgivable supporting character in their story, a hardship standing in front of true love. Although I knew him before Gloria did, and Alan had once vowed to only love me in this lifetime, I silently sat there for a long time. In that account, Alan wrote about Gloria. I said she looked beautiful today. She got upset that I didn't notice she wasn't wearing makeup. But I did notice, and I genuinely think she's beautiful, every day. Surprised. Gloria made sweet soup, and it tasted good. I needed to praise her on Weibo. She looks so obedient when she's sleeping. The picture showed Gloria curled up, resting her head on his shoulder. The background of the photo was simple. On a worn-out wooden table, with an empty drink bottle filled with water and a rose inserted inside. Like a splash of color on barren land. In his utter poverty and bleak future, there was someone willing to offer him their entire heart. How could he forget that, at that time, he wasn't the heir to Booth's group, and she wasn't a controversial female star. They were just a couple sincerely in love with each other. Netizens were deeply moved, and numerous videos and articles emerged, driving the hype to another level. I seemed to have become a complete background player in the celebration of their love. No one believed that Alan and I were together out of love. But I had to admit that in those scattered records, Alan had genuinely loved Gloria. I also had to admit that he didn't love me the same way, or rather, his love for me was only surface level. I had never been loved by him like that. Netizens went wild with their assumptions, the comment section filled with regrets for their ended love story. If it wasn't for a business marriage, it should have been me standing by your side. Gloria. Loving a person is like nurturing a flower. You looked after Gloria so well. Why couldn't you marry her? Marrying her would have meant giving up the family fortune, and without the family wealth, you couldn't protect her. To protect her, you had to accept a family marriage. People in love couldn't be together. This is the suffering of the world. Anything tinged with elements of romance and love could quickly stir up emotions and engage countless netizens. I found a slightly rational comment. Despite everything, he's married. How would his wife feel reading all this? However, that comment quickly descended into chaos. They have a business marriage. Why do you care so much? His wife isn't worried. Why are you reading on? The comment section had completely turned into a celebration ground for Alan and Gloria shippers. I wasn't feeling very generous. So I sent these screenshots to Alan. Half an hour later, Alan replied, netizens hear a rumor and it becomes the truth. There's nothing to it. Perhaps worried I might be upset, he added, Stella, don't overthink it. I pinched my thigh without feeling, pressing hard enough for it to turn white. When I was very young, the doctor said I'd be lifelong companions with a wheelchair. I didn't talk much, nor did I particularly like humans. I hated pitying looks and insincere greetings. But Alan was different. He once said that this little sister was tough, sneaking me out to play with my brother despite risking his life. My brother was beaten half to death. Alan came over to see me secretly, knelt in front of me, tears streaming, saying, Sister, I'm sorry. I didn't know it could have been fatal for you. But whenever I could, he'd dare to do it again. He and my brother had taken me to see car races, play basketball, and carried me up a mountain. My brother held me, and he was like a fool, carrying the wheelchair. When I asked if he was tired, he'd smile, showing a row of white teeth, and ask in return, Sister, are you happy? Because of him, I had many different experiences, living like a normal person. I kind of liked this gentle big brother. I asked my brother to leave Alan with me. My brother agreed without hesitation, and many years later, I begged my brother to help him, and my brother did. But Alan didn't. I squeezed his fingers one by one. I heard my voice trembling but held back tears, softly saying, Alan, let's get a divorce. Alan was taken aback, then crouched down in a fluster, locking eyes with me. His expression was full of unabashed concern as he asked repeatedly, What's wrong? What did I do wrong? I pursed my lips without answering, and in an instant, Alan understood. Do you really mind that much? She and I were already in the past. Right in front of me, Alan made a call. I heard him instructing someone on the other end to take down the trending topic. Stella, please don't be upset. Her career is on the rise now, and after all, we had a connection. I won't be too harsh. His tone was sincere, and every word expressed his sincerity. I looked at his face and suddenly remembered an afternoon many years ago. Maybe it was a Friday. The yard was filled with blooming flowers, and Alan had come to play with my brother. Finishing, he waved and walked away quickly. I watched him go, hoping he would turn back. And as fate would have it, he did. Alan turned around, a wide smile on his face. Before my brother could say anything, he beat him to it. I forgot to say goodbye to Sister. Sister, see you tomorrow. That moment felt like a still frame in a painting. The warm sunlight, the snow-like flowers in the yard. Alan's eyes sparkling, my brother looking down at me with a mischievous smile. Looking back, could it be that our meeting was a stroke of luck? In my originally calm life, a fresh life was suddenly inserted, like being bundled up tightly in the coldest winter, but still being blown forward by the wind with my head down. Unexpectedly, a handful of warm and vibrant spring flowers burst into view. From then on, the weary traveler had something to look forward to. I have heard people say long ago that some people may never meet someone they truly like in their entire life. But I did. I made contact. If the story had ended here, it would have been a regretful and bittersweet youth script. But taking a step forward, the plot shifted to the adult world, and everything changed drastically. Alan, you don't need to lie to me. You clearly know what I care about. You could have done the right thing, but you chose to let things escalate. Today or tomorrow, it will end. You might as well make a decision now. Alan's eyelashes fluttered lightly. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse, Stella, I only want you. He took my hand. His tone full of pleading, I only have you. I won't see her again in the future, I promise you. Give me another chance. Please? He lowered himself, trembling slightly as he held my hand. To make it easier to speak to me, he even knelt on one knee. After pondering for a moment, I realized that Alan was indeed someone who kept his promises. My fingers lingered over his brow and eyes, and I smiled. Answering a different question, I said, No, you won't. Seeming too flustered, Alan finally remembered something, and incoherently said, Next week is your birthday next week. I will make you happy, Stella. I looked down at him, silent. In fact, I felt quite happy during every moment of companionship. Except for today. On the night of my birthday, in the city where fireworks were forbidden, fireworks lit up the sky for several hours. Even I had to admit that Alan had put in some effort. I sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the dazzling fireworks outside. There were quite a few people attending my birthday party, aside from a few close friends and family, most of the people I couldn't recognize. It was supposed to be a birthday celebration, but it felt more like a social gathering. Alan hadn't arrived yet, and I didn't enjoy socializing, so my brother mingled with the guests. At a vacant moment, he discreetly approached me from behind. "Stella, happy birthday," he said, handing me a glass of wine. When I was younger, I always hid behind my brother. Later, it became Alan. My parents were always busy with work, so it could be said that I was almost raised by my brother. The person I trusted the most since I was young was my brother. Then came Alan. Returning to the present, I raised the glass and clinked it with him. "Thank you, brother." He glanced around and asked, "Alan hasn't arrived yet?" Tilting my head, I pointed to the fireworks outside. "Are they beautiful? Must have taken a lot of effort. If he's a little late, I'll forgive him." His tone was calm, devoid of any emotion. "That's what he should do. If you like it, not just on your birthday. You can wear it on regular days as well." I shook my head. "I'm not that extravagant." He nodded in understanding. "Since Alan hasn't come yet, I'll greet the guests for both of you. Tell him to hurry up, this is getting embarrassing." I lowered my head and messaged Alan. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out outside, and I instinctively looked up, catching sight of fireworks in the sky forming several large characters. "Stella, happy birthday." In just a moment, it disappeared, sparkling briefly. It was as if I experienced a fleeting moment of love. "When are you coming?" Alan didn't reply to me, but the guests at the event, in an effort to liven things up, spontaneously commented, "You two are truly enviable." I remember reading entertainment news a while ago, saying something about how Alan couldn't forget his ex-girlfriend. At that time, I wondered how the two of you could remain so calm, but now it's clear. Life is lived by oneself. Someone chimed in, "That's right. Now everyone sees it. They are such a loving couple." "Not a loveless business marriage," my brother interjected, considering Alan's difficult situation back then, and my sister sticking by him, saying there's no love is too fake. Some guests nodded in agreement. "It's a relationship built on mutual understanding." Others looked somber, lost in their thoughts. I paid them no mind. A server brought over a coat, and the atmosphere in the room heated up once again. Raising his voice loud enough for the guests to hear clearly, he said, "Mr. Allen is afraid you'll catch a cold, so he had someone deliver this coat to you. He said he's on his way and will be here shortly." I took the paper bag and pulled out what was inside in front of everyone. It was a short white fur coat. Amidst the teasing and banter, a woman's voice emitted a hint of disdain. When all eyes turned to her, she forced a smile. "I just feel like something's off. This coat looks like it's been washed more than once." But then again, why would Alan give a jacket that's been washed multiple times to Stella? Maybe it's a designer label. I don't understand. Before I could speak, someone else laughed. "What is wrong with you guys? You sound like you're in a play. Look at your phones, it's a hot topic." Alan stood up for his ex-girlfriend. In a fit of rage, even someone as calm as Alan loses control. "Poor Stella." She pouted, looking at me with mocking eyes. The room erupted into some commotion. My brother's face grew cold, and I signaled him not to say anything. Disregarding his concerns, I bit my lip, feeling an uncontrollable anger rise within me. Someone in the crowd questioned, "Have you all seen the real-time footage? Gloria wore what looks like a white fur coat before. Was that coat taken off her and sent as a birthday gift?" I chuckled, trying to maintain composure. The next moment, I couldn't contain the overwhelming anger rising within me. Because someone was asking, "Have you guys seen the real-time video? Gloria was wearing what seemed to be a white fur coat before. Was that coat taken off her and sent as a birthday gift to Stella?" I overwhelmed with fury as people discussed in a mix of disdain and pity. Their looks of pity and disdain sweeping over me. My brother finally couldn't contain himself, and the sound of his glass hitting the table was particularly jarring. "My sister has the support of the entire family. She's not someone to be pitied. When the time comes, we'll see who deserves pity." The room fell silent for a moment. Some murmuring protest persisted. "We're doing this for her good. Is it interesting to interfere in someone else's relationship? It's not a matter of responding or not, it's about not being able to respond. You forced Alan into marriage at first, now it's hard to end it." Her voice was sharp and fierce, and I instantly recognized her as Gloria's friend from the information I had received earlier. I pinched the tip of my finger, calming myself down. Excuse me, how did you get in here? I don't remember inviting you to my birthday party. Whose girlfriend are you? I tapped on the wheelchair armrest lightly, smiling brightly. My brother gave me a glance. I'll have someone bring the guest list for verification. Sneaking into someone's birthday party is very rude. Ma'am, would you prefer to be taken to the police station? My brother's cold demeanor was truly intimidating. She turned pale, fumbling with her hands, trying to grab something. The man beside her harshly pushed her away, trying to please. I'm sorry, she was just following me, not very sensible. I'll go teach her a lesson. I chuckled. Forced Alan into marrying me? Go find out whether he begged me or I begged him. I'm not someone who picks up trash in front of everyone. I stuffed my coat back into the paper bag and casually threw the used tissue in it. I decided to return it, telling him that it was sent to the wrong person. What kind of expression did everyone have? I remember today is my birthday party, not my wedding anniversary. There is no need to pity me like this. The party doesn't need to be cancelled, let's continue. Someone came out to smooth things over, along with my brother's statement, my actions, and no one came to make things unpleasant. The party was able to continue. My gaze swept over everyone in the room, and Gloria's friends in the corner, tears on their faces, looked up and quickly made eye contact with me. When Alan arrived, the birthday party was almost over. He dashed towards me, completely clueless about the situation, his face anxious and breathless. Stella, I'm sorry, something came up and I got delayed. I'll apologize to you properly another day. Just as he was about to reach for my hand as usual, I dodged it. Alan stood there awkwardly with his hands suspended in the air. He tried to continue apologizing, but my brother cut in coldly. On my sister's birthday, you went to meet your ex-girlfriend, and it made headlines. She wore unwanted clothes and sent them to my sister. Alan, you really are something. As the situation escalated, my brother couldn't contain his anger any longer. He grabbed Alan by the collar, a gust of wind rose, and his clenched fist landed on Alan's face. It swelled instantly. Alan casually wiped his face with his fingertip and called my name, Stella. No matter who it was, even if it was my competitor standing there today, I would stand up for her. Faced with women being harassed verbally, I stood by and did nothing. You wouldn't like me this way. I felt like applauding for him. His reasons were impeccable. Alan tiredly rubbed his brow. The clothes were mixed up, 2 identical bags. The assistants sent the clothes Gloria was wearing to you. If your birthday made you upset, then I apologize to you. I leaned back a bit, feeling a slight sourness in my heart. You promised not to see her again. You promised yourself, I didn't force you. Alan, this is the end, we're getting divorced. Alan tensed up, remaining silent. I raised my chin slightly, speaking lightly. Our marriage ends here. You don't have to tell me anything about what you do in the future. Be happy. I smiled at him. Alan looked at me in disbelief. Stella, you can't do this. You must believe me, nothing happened between her and me. In the corner, a flash went off. Gloria committed suicide. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the once quiet crowd erupted in gasps. Alan turned to find the person who said that statement. But ultimately, he returned empty-handed. He stood there dumbfounded, his body stiff and motionless. After nearly half a minute, it seemed he could no longer conceal his emotions. Alan whispered, Stella, a life was lost. I looked at him, watching as he ran out without looking back, his hands trembling as he pushed past interfering people. He couldn't deceive himself in the end. I chuckled self-deprecatingly. My brother placed a hand on my shoulder, gently patting it. It was like silent comfort. I shook my head. There's no need to worry about me. As I've done for many years in the past, I will tell those around me, it's nothing. It doesn't matter. Not able to walk properly doesn't matter, not being able to live a normal life doesn't matter, being pitted or looked down upon doesn't matter. From a very young age, I vowed to be a copper P. Gloria helped him through a difficult time, and I helped him stand firm in the company again. Her love is pure and great, is my love not? She's beautiful and healthy, so she's noble, but am I lowly because I'm disabled? It's not like that. Since he chose to be with me, he should say goodbye to the past. If he doesn't, that's his incompetence, his lowliness. So, it doesn't matter. It's a small matter. Thank you all for coming here today just for me. I smiled. Just now, I made an important decision in my life. I decided to separate from Alan. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. And thank you all for witnessing this special moment. I have ended a marriage that made me unhappy. Please congratulate me. My brother was the first to applaud, praising me. Brave little sister, you're truly remarkable. Some people closer to my family also expressed their support. Amidst true or false blessings, I smiled genuinely. A video of Alan leaving me in a fit and storming out silently began to spread. The video was detailed, starting from my birthday party and ending with me raising a toast inviting everyone to celebrate the end of my marriage. The keywords slowly rose, and some bloggers noticed it, seizing the hot topic with keen intuition and quickly producing videos. A combination of wealthy families' gossip, popular actresses, ex-girlfriend, and current wives, each one taken out separately, would be a hot topic, let alone when they were all combined. Amidst various opinions, that detailed video spread widely. The segment where Alan quietly apologized came through so clearly, it broke the brainwashing narrative of him and me being forced into a marriage on the internet. At the same time, my life experiences were dug up and presented. During the time Alan just returned to the country, I stood by his side without hesitation. Many insiders came forward. I couldn't say it before fearing backlash, but now I can boldly speak out. It was definitely not a business marriage. At that time, Alan couldn't reach her family no matter what. After Alan broke up with his ex-girlfriend and returned to the country, he pursued Stella. After they got together, this lady went against all odds to be with him. Let me tell you the truth, ask any internal employee casually. Stella's family never agreed, and Stella got herself transferred out of the power center, suspended from work for nearly 6 months. But in the end, the family pitied her and reluctantly agreed. I was in the same class as Stella in university, and I often saw her being dropped off at school by someone. Even from a wealthy family, she never missed a class and had good grades. Because I was the class monitor, I had some interaction with her. She directly declined many important awards. I thought she found them troublesome, so I didn't inquire further. Since you've all spoken, let me say something too. A colleague overheard her arguing with her brother, all for Alan. She pleaded with her brother to help Alan, and Alan was right there, promising to treat Stella well, to reassure her brother. Alan is capable, but many capable people exist. Why did Alan climb up so fast? Without Stella, what does he have? When I searched the trending topics, even as an outsider, I found it revolting. A person shouldn't be so ungrateful. This elder sister is very kind. We have a scavenging old man on our street. He hasn't reached retirement age yet, but due to his original company closing down, he could only make a living by picking up trash. But even scavenging had its territories, and one time the old man was bullied by another homeless man for picking up a few bottles. And was beaten down to the ground. Stella heard about it and arranged for the old man to receive medical treatment, and also found a suitable job for him. You might ask why I know about this incident? Because this homeless old man is my grandfather. I didn't drop out of school to work, I'm still studying because of Stella. Stella is very capable at her job. This is something everyone who has worked with her can attest to. She doesn't put on airs, and what I find most rare about her is that she doesn't feel inferior just because she's disabled. When it comes to the topic of disability, she doesn't get pricked, but instead shares her life with a smile. I hope she stops chasing after love. Is Alan an idiot? Why wouldn't he want to marry Stella? He personally came to have the wedding dress tailored for the wedding day, discussing it with the designer for a long time, showing no signs of unwillingness throughout. Not being able to let go of his ex-girlfriend, yet able to act so happy, men are truly born actors. As the victim, I received countless sympathies. Netizens who couldn't locate my Weibo were leaving comments under the company account. Sister, wake up, will you? After everything he did to you, stand up and love yourself. If your legs can't stand, it's okay, but let your heart stand up. Don't look down on yourself. In no time, this incident took over the hot search results. A new keyword suddenly appeared in the hot search, Alan, the leaker. According to a blogger's revelations, in order to stabilize his position in the company, Alan suppressed the private son of his family, and at the cost of leaking commercial secrets, took control. The blogger provided a lot of evidence, including incidents like, in a public bidding project, a competing company's bid was slightly lower than Boots Group. After Alan joined Boots Group, a certain unique technology held by Boots Group was cracked by a third-party company. The project team information within Boots Group didn't communicate, but the competing company miraculously released the benchmark product ahead of time. Internationally recognized as the Golden Public Relations period, the 24 hours after a public sentiment occurs are crucial. If not handled correctly in the initial 24 hours, the resulting losses are hard to recover. But strangely, Boots Group remained silent throughout, not responding. As the hot search results surged in large numbers, Boots Group still did not respond, and their stock price noticeably dropped. The drop in stock price led to numerous people selling in large quantities, spiraling towards an uncontrollable direction. The situation escalated. 40 hours after the incident occurred, Booth's group urgently held a meeting, announcing that they would investigate the matter. After reading the news, my brother carefully observed my expression. Perhaps not discerning anything from it, he asked me, "Stella, do you really have no regrets?" "Brother, in a wealthy family, flowers that aren't pampered don't exist." I looked out the window and suddenly said, "I want to go mountain climbing, to the same mountain you took me to for the first time. Take me there again." My brother seemed hesitant, and I could see his unease, so I took the initiative and said, "It has nothing to do with Alan. I just want to see the sunrise again. It was so beautiful. The first time I went mountain climbing, my brother and Alan took me up. My brother carried me, while Alan lifted my wheelchair. We had originally planned to watch the sunset, but my presence and my wheelchair significantly slowed them down. We had to settle for watching the sunrise instead. I felt a bit guilty. Alan noticed it and exaggeratedly said to me, "We must thank little sister well. If it wasn't for her, I would never have seen such a beautiful sunrise in my entire life. Being with little sister turns even an unlucky guy like me into a lucky fellow." I was moved by his words. He suddenly shouted my name seriously and said, "The sunrise is so beautiful." Looking back now, it was probably at that moment that I began to melt for him. My brother was no longer the reckless young man of the past. In order to give me the best experience, he cleared the mountain in advance. A bunch of people followed us, just in case. "Have I gained weight?" My brother glanced down at me and said, "I work out." "You're growing up, and so am I, Stella. People change." I didn't say anything. The process of climbing the mountain was actually quite boring. I snuggled in my brother's arms and felt drowsy, unable to find the joy I had felt the first time I climbed. When we reached the mountaintop, there was less than 2 hours until sunrise. I couldn't sleep, so I kept my eyes open, waiting. The sound of the wind blowing past my ears, the rustling of leaves, the sound of my breathing, all echoed in my ears. The air was damp and cold, the sky hazy and dark. The darkness gradually faded away. The view in front of me became clearer, and the sunlight poured down. The sun had risen. I watched quietly for a long time. Long enough for me to finally be sure that I could completely cut off the past. As the seasons change, I still have to return to being myself, like the snowy mountain. When I got back home, I found that Alan had sent me numerous messages and called me many times. When he left me to find Gloria, I had set my messages to do not disturb and silenced his calls. By the time my brother took me mountain climbing, he had tried to contact me. I returned his call. As soon as the call connected, Alan eagerly said, "Stella, where are you? I'm really worried about you." I chuckled lightly. "Worried about me?" "I'm doing just fine." There was a moment of silence on the other end, as if he found it hard to speak. He hesitated before saying, "I suspect someone is plotting against me. Can you help me? It might require some assistance from your family." I touched the wheelchair armrest, sounding cheerful. "No, I can't. I want a divorce from you. Do you understand plain language?" Alan's breath caught for a moment. A weak voice came from the other end. "Don't misunderstand, there is nothing between me and Alan. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten married. He's really worried about you. He heard about your location yesterday and walked 30 kilometers to find you. He's just overreacting out of concern. He loves you very much." Upon hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh. He's quite the walker, suitable for a marathon. If I wanted, there would be plenty of people willing to walk 3,000 miles for me. What kind of person is he? If you like him, you keep him. Before she could respond, I hung up the phone. In the last second before the call ended, I heard Alan sounding choked up as if crying. On the 5th day, Booth's group announced that Alan had indeed leaked trade secrets, and he would be prosecuted for the offense of infringing business secrets. His case was deemed particularly serious, causing substantial losses to Booth's group, and due to personal reasons, leading to a significant drop in the company's stock price. Alan was going to have a tough time. He still had unfinished projects under his name, and many clients who had purchased from him were demanding multiple compensations. At this point, divorcing me would entitle him to half of my assets. Alan didn't bother me anymore and chose to divorce me. But during the asset division, he suddenly realized that all the assets I currently used were premarital property. During our marriage, I had no income. He swallowed hard. "Stella, how can you be so selfish?" He slammed the table, the noise reverberating in the room. He looked like a crazed beast, his eyes red. You've always been suspicious of me. I looked up, met his incredulous gaze, and smiled slightly. A mansion doesn't grow delicate flowers. Some people think that by marrying a girl from a wealthy family, they'll become rich and prosperous. Little did they know that these girls were never taught selflessness and maturity. We were always taught the brutal logic of survival of the fittest, that we can do without love, without pampering, without believing in fairy tales. We grow upwards, we are resilient, and we always love ourselves the most. Alan nodded solemnly, through gritted teeth. You're ruthless. All these years of our relationship, it's not worth a second thought for you. He relaxed his posture, with a hint of determination in his voice. He transferred the assets under his name to Gloria to avoid responsibility. The lawyer looked troubled. Alan leaned against the wall like he was out of energy. Stella, I never thought you could be this heartless. He looked tired, and weariness was evident in his voice. As much as I hate to admit it, Alan was really good at always having a backup plan, always keeping the initiative in his hands. Knowing that he might face huge compensation and bankruptcy, he swiftly transferred his assets to Gloria when things spiraled out of control. Indeed, he was a lover from my youth. When push came to shove, he still thought of her. I thought to myself as the door was pushed open. Gloria, looking tidy, walked in. Alan looked at her. What are you doing here? Don't worry, I'll handle these matters right away. His tone was mild, with no signs of anger. He was barely holding it together. Gloria ignored him and walked up to me, saying earnestly, Promise me, you will support me. I nodded lightly. Of course, I'll bring you to fame, make your fans proud of you. Alan suddenly stood up, his eyes bloodshot and full of fury. I waved my hand, and 2 bodyguards swiftly moved forward to stop Alan from taking the next violent action. I looked at Alan, and with a gentle smile, I said, Didn't I say? I hate it when someone gambles with my feelings. You used me, and I used you, all for money. Now we're even. I patted the wheelchair's armrest, and Gloria motioned for my assistant to push me, and there was a loud noise from behind. The lawyer kindly reminded him, Mr. Allen, the things here are very expensive. If you break everything, it will be quite a sum. There was a moment of silence on his end. I was wheeled out of the room into a lush green setting. The sun was shining, casting dappled shadows. It felt warm. A mansion can't cultivate delicate flowers. My family's wealth, accumulated over generations, allowed us to lead such a lavish life today. I could be a fool, but I would never be allowed to be a fool who only thinks about love. On the day Alan returned from abroad, my brother warned me he had a longtime girlfriend overseas, and if he shows interest in you, don't fall for it. Alan is my brother. I know what kind of person he is better than you. I sat next to my brother pruning flower branches. Upon hearing this, I stopped and said seriously, Let's give it a try then. If he makes a move on me, I'll help him once. No cost attached to that help. If he deceives me, I'll be with him. Just for fun, until I get bored, I turned to my brother and said, Brother, Alan still has some usefulness, right? In that moment of intertwined gaze, my brother understood my meaning. After a moment of contemplation, he advised, Be safe. From the moment Alan professed his love for me, I had made up my mind not to fall in love with him anymore. If he hadn't liked me in the 10+ years we had known each other, and only showed affection when he needed help, I was acutely aware of the situation. My brother said that the greatest meaning of life lies in experiences. When the person I chased after during my teenage years stood by my side, taking care of me tenderly, professing his love, it was a particularly beautiful experience. So I fully immersed myself, responding to his love. Every step I took was cautious, and when I felt tender towards him, it was genuine. I felt a bit of affection, but also truly wanted his money. I was so convincing, no one suspected me, and Alan had no defenses against me. Even while he struggled in pain, I firmly held his hand, and when he looked at me with tenderness, I genuinely felt sorry for him. When he achieved something, his first reaction was to hug me, and I would still feel touched. During those long nights, when he comforted me to sleep, I would recall the mountain we climbed together, the sunrise we witnessed that day. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. When I frowned slightly, he would soothe me, telling me not to be afraid. I would remember his goodness all night long. For him to wake up at 3 in the morning to make noodles I wanted to eat, I would be touched by that gesture. But I never wavered in my resolve. I didn't mind if he had once loved someone else, but I detested him for claiming to love me just to use me. From the moment he used me, it was impossible for us to end well. Brother said that if we didn't break free soon, we might never be able to break free. So, I meticulously prepared a new drama for Gloria to make her explode in popularity. The role of the glamorous female star that made her famous was tailor-made by our film and television company's ace team. The so-called online criticisms were also carefully orchestrated by me. In reality, I'm not too heartless. I even left a way out for Alan. As long as he doesn't waver in the face of Gloria's desperate pleas, I will save his last bit of dignity. Unfortunately, after men have gained fame and fortune, what they most want to see is their ex-girlfriend repenting and coming back to them. Alan was no exception. If he liked it, then I would create a new drama specifically for him. From Gloria's background being exposed by online critics, to Gloria contacting Alan on her own, and then Gloria threatening to commit suicide, every time point was meticulously arranged by me. When Gloria's background was being exposed, I didn't respond and had someone guide the public opinion. Alan played the hero, and the heat rose to a new high, reaching the peak of public opinion. When the netizens were all caught up emotionally, I released the video of Alan abandoning me and leaving, while arranging for our company's top bloggers and opinion leaders to be prepared, aiming for a turnaround of public opinion and reputation. Apart from delaying Alan with Gloria's suicide threat, I also prepared a series of challenges for him to keep him unsettled. Boots Group could not possibly reach him within 24 hours. The so-called online revelations were also prepared by me in advance. Starting from when Alan and I got engaged, my brother and I had been planning these actions. We could not afford not to have leverage over Alan, and we helped him without complaints or regrets. His deviation from the right path was also probably due to some external forces guiding him. Alan thought he was controlling the situation, but in reality, I had meticulously calculated every step. We had already planted many people inside Boots Group, and over time, we also managed to secure a new major shareholder. They all signed a joint action agreement with me. Investigating and prosecuting Alan was imperative. With my deliberate arrangement, the evidence-gathering work was completed on the same day. But to avoid raising any of Alan's suspicions, I deliberately delayed it for a few days. When Boots Group's stock price plummeted, my brother arranged for a mass acquisition of shares. The actual controlling interest of Boots Group fell into the hands of people from outside the family. The fatal blow to Alan was his hard-earned wealth, which he had meticulously built over the years, all turning to dust. I never expected Gloria to be so capable, sweet-talking Alan into transferring his assets to her. This saved me a lot of trouble. As for convincing Gloria, that was even easier. I don't believe that someone who has reached the top would willingly accept a lower position, especially in the entertainment industry, where fame and fortune are everything. Some worship her as a deity, some shout themselves hoarse for her, some travel far and wide to be near her. Some endure 8 hours on hard seats just to catch a glimpse of where she lives, some are moved for years by a single word from her. There is nothing purer than the love of fans. Even if Gloria didn't bow for power and fame, she couldn't ignore this love. I promised her that I would do my best to elevate her, to make her a household name. After a slight hesitation, Gloria accepted my olive branch. A man's sincerity changes in an instant, but the love of fans is endless. Moreover, by Alan's side, Gloria was just an accessory. But with me, she is Gloria, she is herself. Women may not need love, but we need wealth, power, status, and freedom. Our thoughts matched perfectly. In the end, Alan was sentenced to 10 years in prison and fined a huge amount. Although currently, he had no assets that could be used to pay the fine, the court would periodically check his asset situation. If any assets were found that could be executed, they would be collected at any time. With fame and fortune lost, and his wealth vanished, while I held on to a fortune that I couldn't spend in a lifetime, shining brightly in the field I loved. With the help of her team, her own efforts, and an attitude free from any scandal, Gloria rose to fame. Her civilian friend occasionally takes on small roles in acting. The civilian friend loves to play the role of the female lead's best friend, which in the words of netizens means, whatever the male second lead does in the novel, in reality, it's the best friend doing it. She doesn't care whether Gloria plays the female lead, supporting role, or the third female role. She doesn't mind if the role is positive or not. She just knew that her friend would never do anything to be ashamed of. We rise with confidence towards a bright future.